Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I would like to discuss with you my 10 best books that I read during 2024. I was debating actually if I should create a larger list, but I just decided to limit myself to this best 10 books. I think it will be just a good number to understand how my reading year was. Actually, I had a really nice reading year. I can't really complain. I found so many amazing books, and some of them really left a long-lasting impact for me. That's how I feel, at least. And I hope from this list, maybe you'll find some books that you would be potentially interested in. And maybe you read some of them and we can discuss them. But anyway, have a look and let me know if you already read some of these books or if you're planning to read some of them, and we can talk about them. So my first book on the list is Welcome to Hyunam-Dong Bookshop. To be honest, I was pretty surprised about this particular title, not because I thought that this book will be bad in any way, but I think it's just one of these books that are popping up recently. It's a very popular genre recently. These are this sort of cozy, healing Korean books and translation. Usually they are discussing some interesting issues, but they're mostly cozy. I read quite a few of them, and I do enjoy them. I tend to enjoy them, but at the same time, none of them actually left a long-lasting impact on me that I remember and think about them. But this one actually took me by surprise. I really enjoyed this one, and I think the themes that book is discussing really work for me. I know that some of the ratings maybe are not the best. I know some people just find it too simplistic, but for some reason this book really worked for me, and if you give it a go, I really hope it will work for you as well. But anyway, in this book we are following Yoonju. She left a successful career, she left her marriage and decided to follow her dreams and open a bookshop. Um, Probably many of us actually had this idea at some point in the past, or maybe they're still dreaming about it. Probably it's quite a common sort of dream for many people. Just leave all the worries behind and just follow your dream. But in case of Yoonju, she didn't really just leave everything behind, but just because she felt overwhelmed and she just felt that she doesn't fit in this life that she had. And she decided to open this bookshop. So in this book, we're unwrapping two separate themes. So the first part is actually about technicalities of running a new indie bookshop. And I found it very fascinating because it's not just about opening your bookshop and just everything goes well. Now, it's actually discussing lots of issues that a potential bookshop owner will probably face, and how our protagonist actually try to overcome these issues. I think it's a very interesting view of it, and if you're actually planning to open your own bookshop, I think it can be quite an interesting read for you. But it's not why I actually really enjoy this book. I really appreciated a second sort of theme of the book and how the author unwrapped it. So in case of Yoonju and some of her employees and people in the book, there is an overarching theme of societal pressure on the individual. So the people in the story are facing different issues, probably strained marriages, unloved careers, family expectations, society expectations about them, how they're supposed to live their life and what they're supposed to do, and the right way of living your life. But all of their struggles are just part of these societal expectations and this pressure that families and societies are putting on the individuals. I read somewhere that this particular book is not that popular in Korea, probably just because the themes that it's trying to explore, failing marriages, quitting successful careers, in the general desire of people to find their own path in life, because the society is so uniform, and you're just supposed to follow this well-paved path that people before you already prepared for you, and people just expecting you to follow. But it's, I think, more resonant with the Western world, with people living in the Western world. And it really, really worked for me, because words of these people and how they are really struggling to reconcile their own dreams, their own feelings about their life and what they want to do. And they're trying to actually find their own path, and they're trying to reconcile it with expectations of society and their families. I found it really interesting and sometimes heartbreaking, to be honest, and it really, really worked for me. So if you are interested in this sort of topics, themes of a societal pressure and how people are trying to find their own path in this uniform society, I would highly recommend this book. And the second book on my list of the best books of 2024 is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpen. This book surged in popularity recently, even though it's not a newly published book, but I think it was just picked up by a few booktubers and they really hyped this book. And I think I was the victim of this hype as well, and I just decided to give it a go. And no regrets, I don't regret it. I think it was wonderful. So in this book, we are following sort of a nameless protagonist. She doesn't have a name. People in this book call her simply a child, just because she's the youngest of 40 women. We find our protagonist in a cage with other women. There are 40 of them in total. They live in a cage. We don't have any information about the world outside the cage. We don't know why they're in the cage. They're not really being told the purpose of them staying there. There are some guards that guard women in the cage, but they're changing randomly, and we don't really know why they're guarding them. And there is no pretty much interaction between the guards and the women. And the women are trying to understand why they're in the cage, if they can get any information about the world outside of it. But it seems like their memories are quite sporadic, and some of them already forgetting some of the things from the past. The child doesn't really have any memories because she's the youngest of them all. And when she arrived to the cage, she was too young and she didn't really have any memories. She doesn't really know anything about the outside world and about the society. So she's trying to understand what's happening. She's trying to find her place in this small society. She's trying to find the connection with the women. But she's failing because she's just too different. She can't discuss past with this group of women. She doesn't really have anything that connect them together because all the experiences are so different from her. She feels like an outcast, and many times she's just left alone and she doesn't really talk to anyone. Originally, I found the premise of this book very intriguing, but in the end, I fell in love with the themes of this book. It is exploring themes of generational gap and isolation. First of all, the generational gap is caused not only by age difference of our characters, but at the same time, it is actually exacerbated by the cultural difference in them, because our protagonist child doesn't have really any memories of the society. She can't really place herself in the human society, and her psyche develops in very, very different way from the rest of the women, just because she doesn't really have any cultural cues or habits that sort of unite the rest of the women. And another theme that I really loved, and I think this is my favorite one, is actually theme of isolation. It's not only mental theme of isolation, just because she feels sort of isolated from the rest of the women. And she doesn't really know anything about humanity and about society. She just hears some words, but they're meaningless to her. When women, for instance, mention a bus or a sky, she doesn't know how these things feel or look, because she's never experienced them, she's never seen them. And it's true for many other concepts. They're absolutely normal for us. But another theme of isolation is actually psychological in terms of how can you live and find the will to live if there is no seeming purpose in your life. I found it so beautiful and so interesting because we don't really pose the sort of questions for ourselves in our daily lives. But I found it an amazing mental exercise. How would you feel if there is no purpose in your life, there is no goal? Because we are so accustomed to the situations when we're always striving for something in our daily lives. We are always trying to achieve something. But try to imagine the situation when there is nothing to strive for. I think this is my favorite theme of this book. And I think author did an amazing job in constructing the story and is actually exploring these themes and the relationship between women and the child. I would highly recommend it. It's not very long, but I think the emotional impact and thought-provokingness of the story is just amazing. And the next book on my list is Kim Ji-yoon, 1982. It was part of my reading log. I already have a video uploaded on YouTube, and if you're interested in checking it out, I will link to this video. But in this book, we are following Kim Ji-yoon. She's in her early 30s, she's married, she has a child, but at some point she started developing this very weird psychological issues. It looks like almost a split personality disorder when she starts talking to people from the perspective of other people, other women that she knows or knew. Some of them are actually already dead. And people are understandably perplexed. They don't understand what's happening. Her family is very worried about her. And they send her to a male psychiatrist to actually try to understand what the issue is. And the rest of the book is just constructed in a very dry, sort of almost a diary-like way, when we are following Kim Ji-yoon for all her life, and we are visiting these pivotal moments in her life and exploring what sort of things led to this mental disorder. You will understand at the end of the book why it is structured in this way, why it is so dry. There is a reason for it. Please don't be deterred by the dry writing style. There is a reason actually for it. But the themes that actually explore are absolutely amazing. It's a very thought-provoking and heartbreaking book about sexism. I don't really feel that you need to be South Korean to actually connect with the book. In my particular case, when I was reading it, I felt like about 80% of the situations were so familiar because I had them in the past. It is just about general sexism of the society and how society perceives women. I think it will be very beneficial read for everyone, for women, just because they will feel heard and understood, and they'll find so many similar situations to what they probably experienced in the past or continue to experience. And at the same time, I would highly recommend it to male readers as well, just because I think after this book, they will be able to understand their mothers, sisters, wives, partners so much better. Just because sometimes men are just not exposed to this sort of situations. They are at a loss. They don't know how to react just because they're not familiar with these things. And obviously, if you're not familiar with certain things, you can just ignore them. You don't understand them, and you don't see them. They don't exist for you. And another book that took me by surprise in 2024 is actually Remnant Population by Elizabeth Moon. I didn't really actually expect that I will love this book. I saw it being read by one of the booktubers that I'm following, and she enjoyed it, but it's an older sort of sci-fi book, and sometimes I have divided opinions about all the sci-fi books, but I decided to give it a go, and I don't regret it. It was really, really good. So in this book, we are following Ophelia. First thing that I absolutely love this book, that Ophelia is in her older age. Because I think in majority of the books we tend to follow quite youngish protagonists, and sometimes I feel it's just always someone in their teens, 20s, maybe early 30s. I found it such a refreshing change when we actually have all the protagonists, and this is the case with Remnant Population. So Ophelia lives on a new planet with her family, with her son and her daughter-in-law. They're pioneers on this planet, and they're preparing the planet for humanity to arrive and actually live there. They've been sent to this planet by a corporation, then they're generally farmers. They are trying to prepare this planet for the humanity. But at some point, the corporation had a change of heart, and they decided that they are leaving the planet. So they packed everyone up. They put people in some cryo capsules and shipped them to a different planet. But Ophelia decided to hide and stay there just because she was so sick of people around her, because she was bossed around all her life by her husband, by her son, by her daughter-in-law, by the society in general. She feels that as an older woman, she is not being appreciated by her people, by her society. And she's just sick and tired of people. And she wants to live the rest of her life in peace and do whatever she wants to do. So she is hiding in the forest, and when everyone is leaving, she's being left alone on the planet. But what Ophelia doesn't realize that she's actually not alone on this planet. There is some other intelligent life form that inhabits this planet, and they were not aware of the humanity before. And at some point, they make a contact. And for the rest of the book, we are following Ophelia trying to build relationship with these creatures, how they're exchanging information, how she's teaching them and they're teaching her. I found the story absolutely amazing. First of all, I loved Ophelia. Her reaction to things, how she's sick and tired of people. Sometimes I felt it was really relatable, even though I'm not in her age. But you can already feel it sometimes. She was just this amazing protagonist to follow. But at the same time, this first contact situation was really interesting to follow, and the relationship of Ophelia with this other creatures. It was really, really interesting, and she was an absolute delight to follow. I would highly recommend it. And another book that left a very deep impression on me during 2024 was I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. It's actually a memoir, and it's not a one book, it's a series of books. I am not sure at the moment how many of them are in the series. I heard somewhere between 6 and 9. Please do let me know if you are familiar with this series of books, because I'm a little bit confused, because every time I'm changing different sources, they have different and conflicting information. Yeah, I need to check it out because I am really looking forward to continuing this series. So I read the first book in her memoir series, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And in this particular book, we are following Maya through the age, I think, 4 till 16 years old. So at this tender age of 4, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, she and her brother are being shipped away by her mother to her grandmother to live in the American South, and it is 1930s. So probably you can imagine it's not an ideal time and place for a young black woman to grow up in. And we follow Maya through her formative years between this age and until she's 16 in this book. I had a very conflicting feeling reading this book. I felt that it was a bit similar in sort of feel and theme with the Persepolis. In that book, we are following a very young girl as well, and how she's going through her experience, and it's very, very heartbreaking. So I felt like it's quite similar with I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, because we are going through this absolutely sometimes heartbreaking, horrendous experiences. But at the same time, because it is experienced by a child, and we see it through eyes of the child, it is sometimes hopeful. I'm not sure if it's the correct way to put it this way, but I felt that at the same time the book didn't really lose its hope. It was an absolutely amazing experience. Obviously, we are exploring themes of racism and at the same time abuse. So if you're sensitive to topics of abuse, especially sexual abuse, maybe just be aware of it and decide for yourself if you're ready for this book. But for me personally, it was an absolutely amazing read. I am looking forward to continue the series. Please do let me know if you know actually the number of books. But as far as I know, they're not very long. So it's not a very complicated read, but at the same time, very, very emotional. And I would highly recommend it as well. And the next book on the list is A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. You probably all heard about this book. It's a classics. This year, I decided to actually read more classics books, and I absolutely loved some of them, and some of them were a bit sort of disappointing for me, but we'll go through that list in a different video. Today, we're focusing actually on the best books of 2024. So, A Clockwork Orange was one of these books. It was a very interesting and disturbing read. Maybe you watched the movie or read the book. Probably many people are aware of the story in general. In this book, we are following Alex. He's 15 years old, and he is the leader of a small criminal gang. So in this society, criminal gangs are absolutely on the loose during nighttime. And Alex is a leader of one of these gangs. The book is absolutely brutal. You will encounter so many instances of abuse, aggression, and absolutely horrendous acts. So if you are sensitive to these sort of things, maybe just pass it. I'm not sure if this book will work for you, but I really enjoyed it. It is very difficult to say that you actually enjoy it because the things that are being described in the books are absolutely terrifying. But I really appreciated, let's say, themes of the book. Because at some point Alex is being caught by the police and being sent to this experimental institution where he is undergoing this experimental treatment where doctors are trying to actually change him as a person. They're trying to make him resent all the aggression and all the lust for blood that he has. The book is actually discussing very interesting topic. Is it okay to remove a person's free will when they can't choose their actions? Is it actually genuine change? If the person can't choose by themselves an evil act, does it actually make them a good person? Even though they maybe would like to do something evil, but they are not able to. Does it fundamentally changes the person? At the same time, I found another thing being very peculiar about this book, because the slang that these criminal gangs, these teenager gangs are using in the book is based on Russian language. And there is a glossary at the end of the book where you can actually translate the slang and understand it better. But in my case, because my first language is Russian, I didn't need the glossary. So it was actually quite an easy read for me because I didn't need to actually check it all the time at the back of the book. So if you are a Russian speaker, probably this book will be much, much easier for you to read as well. But yes, please be aware of very heavy violence that occur in the book. If you're not really fan of this sort of things, maybe it is not book for you. The next book on the list is Wandering Souls by Cecil Pinn. I think it was 2023 release, and I read it actually in the beginning of 2024, and it was one of the first books that I read during the year. which is a great accomplishment that it's still one of my best books of 2024 because I still think about it. And it was actually a debut novel as well. It is very short, but at the same time, it covers lots of ground, lots of history, and lots of developments. So if you like the sort of fast-paced stories that move you through a long period of time, being relatively short, you may actually enjoy it. But anyway, in this book, we are following three siblings. They left Vietnam after devastation of the Vietnam War when the last of American troops left the country. And they were smuggled by smugglers on a boat to Hong Kong, where they were hoping to move to the US to join their relatives and find a better life in the US. The rest of their families, their parents, and the rest of their siblings, if I'm not mistaken, four other siblings, were expected to follow them and join them later on. So these three siblings arrive to Hong Kong and they're waiting for their family. But at some point, they realize that their family will never join them. Something happened, and unfortunately, all of them are dead. And throughout the book, we are following life of these three siblings and how they're trying to find a new land and how by some chance they end up in the UK. So we are following them from this immigration camps, all the difficulties of illegal migrants and how they're trying to find themselves and build a new life in the new country that potentially doesn't really want them there. I found it quite an emotional read, but if you're interested in this topic, I would highly recommend it. Actually, after reading this book, I was thinking to pick up some of other books about Vietnam War and about people during that time. But as always, you grab some other books and your plans are changing and you just forget about some other commitments. So, unfortunately, I never really managed to read anything else about Vietnam, but I probably should. And the next book on my list is The African Samurai. Ooh, I steal pictures and things from this book, and I think they scarred me for life. So in this book, we are following an East African slave that was captured by Portuguese slave traders during his childhood. His mother was killed, pretty much all his village was killed, and only young and able girls and boys were captured as slaves. So you're following him for this first journey to Europe on the ship and all the atrocities and horrors that they had to face on the ship and his life on Europe and after that. But why this person is so interesting, so sort of exceptional, it doesn't mean that the rest of the people are not special, but his story is just a little bit different. Because in 1579, he arrives to Japan on a Portuguese ship, and he is a bodyguard to a high-ranking Italian priest. And he's being gifted to a very powerful Japanese warlord, Oda Nobunaga. Oda Nobunaga gives him his freedom, and he makes him a first foreign samurai in Japan, and he's actually the only foreign samurai in the history of Japan of African origin. So he becomes a famous Yasuke, the only African samurai in the history of Japan. And we're following relationship between Yasuke and Oda Nobunaga and all the difficulties they had to face in order for Oda to unite Japan. So it is very interesting historical novel. I never really heard about Yasuke before reading this book. I was recommended this book by one of my friends, and I don't regret reading it. It was absolutely amazing. It is such a gripping story, but at the same time, some of the things discussed in this book and described in this book, I think probably just scarred me for life, just because it's discussing a very heavy topic of slavery, which is the things you read there are absolutely horrendous. I just don't understand how people can do such things to fellow human beings. Yes, so if you're sensitive to this sort of topic, maybe pass this book, but I think it's very important that we actually read this sort of things and know what actually happened. And the next book on my list is If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin. I think it's quite a famous book. I think there is a movie as well. I've never actually seen the movie, but the book is absolutely amazing. So in this book, we are following our 19 years old protagonist Tish. She is pregnant by her boyfriend Phony, but during the book, he's being wrongfully accused of rape and being sent to prison to wait for his sentence. And in this book, we have constant flashbacks to their past to see how their relationship developed, all the beauty of their love, because they pretty much knew each other from the childhood. And we explore relationship between them and their family members, and how it actually shaped their life, their reality, and their love. This book discusses racial prejudice and inequalities, and it is quite a heavy theme in this book. But at the same time, why I think I felt that this book was one of the best that I read in 2024, it was just the theme of love. Because in this book, we have lots of discussion about love. It's not only about love between Tish and Phony, because they are young lovers, they love each other, they were planning to marry, they were planning to start their new life. She's pregnant, and obviously they're trying to get him out of prison. But at the same time, there is a heavy discussion of family love, because to go for this sort of experience, you need support of all your family. And we see relationship between these two families, Phony's and Tish family, and how people are interacting and support, and sometimes very complicated relationship actually, at least in case of Phony's family. And this theme of love, the depth of it, the beauty of it, was absolutely amazing. I think it was one of the best books discussing love for me in 2024. I absolutely loved it. But at the same time, as I already mentioned, it discusses issues of racial inequality and prejudice. Uh, Absolutely amazing book. And finally, ta-da-da-da! The last book on this list, I actually left it at the last moment because I think this is my favorite book of 2024. This is Poor Things by Alistair Gray. I was absolutely enamored by this book, and this is a feminist retelling on Frankenstein. So in this book, our monster is substituted by a young woman, Bella Baxter. Godwin Baxter found her body in the river when she committed suicide while she was pregnant. In his attempt to resurrect her, he gave her mind of her unborn child, since her body was already dead, her brain was dead. And as a result of this operation, we meet Bella Baxter, a grown woman with the mind of a child. So throughout the book, her mind is growing and learning things, but at a faster pace than for a normal child, as if trying to catch up with her body. Bella is not limited by societal expectations at the time. Actually, this book is set in Victorian Britain. It is set in Scotland. And there are lots of expectations on women, how women are supposed to behave, what they should do to be ladies. And Bella is just not aware of this sort of limitations, and Godwin is not necessarily teaching her to be this way. So we get a woman child who is absolutely free in her mind to do what she wishes to do. And we're following Bella, how she's going through her early sort of life after this resurrection, and how she's developing as a person, as a woman. I found it hilarious. I found it witty. I found it absolutely clever. And this book is full of twists and turns, and it was unexpected. And I think it was the most clever book that I read during 2024. So if you are interested in Frankenstein retelling, feminist Frankenstein retelling, I can't recommend it highly enough. It was so clever, it was so intelligent, so unpredictable, and at the same time, I had so much fun reading it. It absolutely made it my best book of 2024. But anyway, yes, this is my list of best books of 2024. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please do let me know if you read some of them, or if you're planning to read some of them, and we can discuss them. Or maybe just let me know your favorite books during 2024, and maybe I can take them as a recommendation for my future reading as well. See you soon. Bye.